No longer a well-kept secret,
Exactly.
so to speak. And I have a sneaky feeling that's probably us live on YouTube. Yep, it is. Yeah, well, so hey, welcome to another episode of the Operation Grow Show. Season 5, episode 25. Oh, Jesus. Almost what, half a year's worth of these ones. Many, many more for season 5 to come, I suspect. But hey, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, just generally speaking on that note, how's everybody doing? GMF, how things going, buddy?
Man, can't complain. I'm above ground and I'm hanging out with y'all. It's an excellent day. That's basically how I look at it, especially in these times of pandemic. I am just a fortunate man to get to chit chat with y'all and hang out with these good peoples.
Yeah, no, cool, man, cool. Raptor, buddy, how you doing, sir?
Oh, really good. Just met up with Mr. Trees himself, did a little handoff, gave me some dragon fruits. He wasn't sure of exactly the name and varieties of them. He was just like, this one's red, this one's white fruit, this one's purple fruit. Like, okay, cool. I can work with that. I can kind of
Nice.
back from with those genetic traits a little bit, but we'll see with that. I'm just going to let them grow and we'll get what we get. I'll make sure to even say Mr. Trees purple, Mr. Trees white, Mr. Trees, even name it after him. But yeah, other than that, we're doing really good. I mentioned before last week that I was going to be popping the Love and Inner Eye seeds. So got those going. Got a little extra growing too because some fell on the floor and I was like, well, did a little grid search there and came up with a lot, like 6 seeds. And I was like, well, just going to pop them. Don't know until I know. They're feminized, the ones I'm looking for. So I was able to pick out one for sure, like one that was pretty sure about. But I'm popping everything I found on the floor, and whatever comes out female, I'll look after. I popped the in terms of her genetics, Paradiso Gelato and Orange Ice Pop, and then the Orange Ice Pop is the one that like went down. So I have one for sure Orange Ice Pop that I can judge it on. And also to shout out to New Grows. He does some awesome pictures. I know that I'm not sure where he's at with it. I think he might have already cut it down, but he does have the Orange Ice Pop. So I can always message him. He's a cool guy. He lives in Central California. I met up with him a little bit like 4 months ago or so. Yeah. So it should be interesting. I moved my Jaboticaba seedlings into the same tent because they were just taking up a lot of room here until I build something like a shelving unit where I can have them stacked up next to the window and let them do their thing. I'll just keep them in there. The light's already going to be on. I don't have other plants. And then once I need the space, those are just going to be going out. So yeah. And I made a trip to Cal Poly Pomona's nursery, picked up some more dragon fruit, Natural Mystic and San Ignacio. The Natural Mystic has like a watermelon flavor to the fruit. Stoked on that. Letting those grow out. Picked up some, you would call them pawpaws. But yeah, I got like 5 varieties of papayas. Gonna be putting them in some pots until I'll know how to manage them within the ground. I'm being very selective with the ground. My ground is not all the way biologically where I want it to be. The nutrients aren't there. I haven't even applied fertilizer to the point where I would like it to be. So yeah, I'm just gonna have them in containers. Put out the seeds. Grow out the fruit, collect the seeds, and be proliferating that way, just through seeds. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Also picked up one thing of strawberries that had 2 heads on it, or 2 crowns, and I got some peppers.
Nice.
Yeah, I got some Craig's Deluxe and some lemon drop, Aji lemon drop.
The lemon drops are nice.
Yeah. Shout out Shipwreck 420. I said, hey, I'm gonna get one that sounds good to me. You tell me which one you like, and I thought it would be fun just because he's really into the whole pepper thing. I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't know anyone that grows peppers besides him. So ask the people that know more than myself. Always.
Yeah, nice. Hey, Mertzy boy, how's it going, buddy? How things there? See you out in the
Cheers.
fields.
I feel like a total fucking schlep here. I didn't
Cheers
get
to no
half the
one.
shit done that fucking Raptor got done, but I did pop some
I-
seeds, and I got a little golden goat and some prana running.
Oh, nice.
So
Very nice. Very nice.
that'll be my first indica in the tent in a while.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I got the all the chilies growing at the moment in the greenhouse. Like there's 24 of the buggers going, and I found out another cross of the ones that I'd crossed. I've now started to. What's interesting is, I looked and I could they cross? I'm not too sure because the thing is, there were two sort of F1s that got crossed. I mean, like commercial F1 chilies that got crossed with each other, and then they just well, I say distant. Well, jalapenos and habaneros, and I'm like looking at the fruit coming up, going, Hey, I have noticed some variation in the across some of the plants out of the like 15 or 20 of them that I popped. It's like that came up. It's a bit like only the slightest. I'm wondering if there is any right now. But one of those that came out, because they're self-pollinating, you've got to be a little bit careful with how you do it. So the second that you get the blossom is starting, and just before it opens up, just before the blossom opens, you peel off all the petals, break away all the stamen, so you don't get any pollen created right there. Then grab another one from something else that's got pollen and pollinated. So it can't self-pollinate. You try to minimize the chance of it self-pollinating. But I've got so many going in the greenhouse right now, and I want to like just do cross a whole bunch of them all over the show just to see what happens.
Mhm.
Get some crazy shit going. I want something that looks really innocent but isn't, just looks like a jalapeno. Go for it, mate. Yeah. No worries.
Surprise!
The bite of a Carolina Reaper and the appearance of a habanero, of a
You're
jalapeno.
fucking
Yeah.
evil.
I thought you wanted like, it automatically gives you dysentery kind of surprise.
Yeah, the kind of thing where you're like, just cut my face off, please make this pain stop. I'll do anything.
The kind of
Mm.
reaction when you just look at the pepper, your sphincter like just flares. Just
You
like
just get
it
the
knows.
faintest
You look at the
of
pepper and
hints
your
of
soul
the.
starts to leave your body.
Those ones where you smell it and you go, "Oh, I'm not eating that, man. That I can smell the heat off that thing. That's just not going anywhere near me." Like, nah.
Yeah, I was in the super hot pepper area, and then I was just looking at it. It was just like 1 million Scoville and just different. I was just like, I can't do
Yeah,
that.
that starts
But
to
I
get
did
up
pick.
there.
I did pick from the hotter section, but I did pick the least hot of them, and that's why I'm glad I did talk to someone who is familiar with the genetics. I
Yeah, the
wouldn't
lemon
know.
drops are really tasty. They're really
Yeah.
nice. And the thing is, like the innocent. Well, it sounds really innocent. Like chocolate habanero sounds delightful. My God, it is brutal. That is a really hot habanero. Amazing flavor to it, but it just sounds like, oh, how hot can that be? Chocolate. It's like, just you wait, mate. Just you wait. Catch you by surprise. But they're quite easy to grow, actually. And now's obviously a good time for be growing peppers if you're in the northern hemisphere. At least a good time to be growing them. And they're a great analog for cannabis in terms of their nutrient requirement. And they're like auto flowers, but except you got to keep pumping them full of nutrients. But they're very similar. They can handle a hell of a lot of incredibly high DLI. Good one to play with. Yeah. No, yeah.
Being a
Otherwise,
bit of
other
a
than
chili
that,
novice. Oh, good. I was gonna say, being a bit of a chili novice. I heard you say before they're not necessarily a scototropic plant, correct? They go basically based on their chronological age from so they're not something that you can necessarily keep in a vegetative state.
Yeah, no, it won't stay in a vegetative state, but it's perennial. So you can just keep it going and going and going. It's like an order. It's not a short day flowering plant. It flowers as soon as it's mature and ready to flower, and then will continue to do so. Some of them will maybe eventually will just blossom drop, and then kind of start over again. So they do need a little bit of a break in the cycle, which you can naturally introduce by either overwintering them, chop everything off as much as you can, pretty much leave very little behind, and overwinter them that way, or yeah, just keep them going, keep them keep them fed, and they'll just keep producing peppers. They're quite remarkable like that. And you can do like the bonsai ones of them. That's what I find amazing. And the little bonsai chili peppers produce huge amounts of fruit. Some of them, like the bonsai version, almost creates more fruit than the full-grown version of the damn thing.
The stress, so it's putting out more fruits to have the next generation go on. So it's even more stress, like, hey, I don't have a lot of nutrients, I don't have a lot of this or that. I
yeah, I
need
have
to
no
get
idea. Yeah. Something, but they're really cool. I mean, I'm trying to think what's the name. I must find. I'll get the name of the guy who does them. Vitali. He does the whole like Vitali peppers, and then he does the whole thing on the bonsai stuff, and get some tips on how to do it and whatnot. But yeah, it's really good fun. They're great fruit to grow. Otherwise, how's everybody's grows going at the moment in terms of the yours there, GMF? How your selection process going and going on the F1s?
Oh, can't complain. Just about to bring up my next, well, because I'm going through basically a bunch of early generations, just making stuff to work from, and they're all backed to the Pakistani Chitral Kush. So the first round was Pakistani Chitral Kush by Superdog. The next one was Pakistani Chitral Kush by Biodiesel. The next one that I have about to go is Pakistani Chitral Kush by Golden Goat. So, and once I have those, we may also see what happens when some of them meet each other versus having a deep chunk as a parent to compete against the landrace PCK. So that's kind of what I'm playing around with, is just trying to see who's got what level of dominance. So I have one experiment coming up right now. Again, these are completely untested seeds, but it's deep chunk cross to the PCK by Superdog. And the reason I did that is I just want to see where does the dominance lie between these two strains, just so I can get an idea of what I'm working with, if that makes sense. So I only have one, I have one tester plant myself, but then I gave some of them out to friends around here to see how they do outdoors and stuff this summer. So it'll be interesting. But really, to be entirely honest, I have an idea what I'm looking for. I'm trying to create more clonable plants, hence working with the deep chunk, but I'm also wanting to do it across a variety of things. So for me, I'm still kind of in what I think is like the earliest stages of maybe a 5-year project at least. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I must say the from the mystery grower on popping the F1s of that K4L V2 crossed with the Afghan Kush. The feedback, there's a few of them that have got some serious funk to them, even at this point, before they've even gone into flowering. There's some that have got like a really, people talk about that. Yeah, I mean, I've never really come across like the proper sort of like proper skunk, dead skunk sort of smell, but I've been told there is a bit of like a dead body smell to one or two of them. Like, it's like that rotting kind of like, that should be interesting to see what happens there. And they've got that variegated one. Apparently, you never get variegated bud. It always the buds always come out green. Well, so I hear. That's, and again, that's just, I don't know how common it is. The variegation. So be keen to see how that actually carries on, if it carries on at all. Yeah, and yourself there, Raptor, how's it going with the Scarlet Begonias, isn't it? You were using that
Yeah. I actually, like I mentioned before, it did get seeded by the only male in there that happened to be very small. So I was told even before that, I just let it run because I didn't have another male. I was like, okay, well, I'll just leave it be. If something happens, I was plucking off all the flowers and like that, or the male pollen flowers. But yeah, it got away from me. I did get some seeds, so much like uh, actually GMF is more ahead of me because I have seeds that shouldn't be uh like I just don't know what's gonna come out from here. So yeah, I have a bunch of those, and like I mentioned before, also that they did get on the floor. So more than likely, the extra ones on the floor were just from that batch. So that's what I'm seeing on that end. Well, I'm very interested to see if it just brings out the same thing over and over again, or I can isolate something, even a more desirable trait. Uh, Beyond that, my next popping will be the I was able to procure another pack of Scarlet Begonias, and I have some more from my first pack. So I'll be using those to really do a breeding stock search, and we'll see. Uh,
Nice,
I don't
nice.
think I don't think it'll be hard to find a male out of that, and hopefully it won't be the expression that I saw before. But I really like what I was getting before. In terms of smell, let me see. The cure, I did try some of this before in early cure, and I did not like the flavor that was coming out with the cure. It smelled great, and then I would try it, and it tasted like suntan lotion. So it was just it. But this is pre-cure, pre-full cure. So here we go. Yeah, interesting, funky. Uh, yeah, funky, citrusy, almost, almost like a hash smell.
Nice.
Yeah, I really like it.
And that's been curing for how long now?
Just over a month, so probably 6 weeks now.
Okay,
So
cool.
I'll try some right now. Cool.
Yeah,
Smell
that is
nice.
kind of like the make or break part of
Well, that's what I was
is
trying to get at. That
getting that bit right.
if I'm if I'm curing it, I'm glad I did try it early so that I could at least give people a heads up, like, hey, you're gonna want this to fully cure. Like, there's no extra picking, like, whoops, my elbow brought down this big freaking bud. Whatever will I do? I guess I'll
Turn
have
it
to
into a
set it all
cog.
up. Yeah. So I am glad I'm trying that out. We'll see where that takes me. But I really liked how it smelled and all throughout the flower. The fine where it's at right now. Very interesting.
Nice, nice.
And speaking of
Yeah,
the
I really
fermented
like it.
product, I finally got someone else to get a chance to try it. Was able to give someone impartial, um, just basically through a friend of a friend. I gave him two samples side by side and just told him, the deal is you just got to give me feedback. They were the
Yeah.
exact same thing, one fermented, one not. And even they had trouble describing it, but they said the buzz on it is very, very different. They didn't know if they'd use the word psychedelic, or it's just very different. So it's just very intriguing to finally get some more feedback as
And
to
that
if anyone
was
else.
smoked
That was,
or
yes, he
yes.
smoked and vaporized it,
Okay, cool, cool,
and
cool.
in both cases he
Vaporized
said it
it
was a
being
very
in
weird buzz.
a dry herb
a table
vaporizer.
a tabletop vaporizer, yeah.
Yeah, dry herb vaporizer. Yeah.
And one was almost psychedelic.
Well, that's what I mean. That was like trying to get words for people to describe the difference in the buzz.
Right,
Like the
right, right.
flavor, it's difficult, but I think, yeah, psychedelic is one of the few words that comes up. It's weird.
Interesting.
It's a little more of a head buzz, I guess. I don't know. It's
Okay.
very strange. I can't wait to finally get this to the lab and find out what the hell I'm doing.
What the hell I'm doing?
Delta 20, Delta 45.
Yeah, exactly. We're only at like 13 right now. There's a long ways to go down that chain, I think.
They're gonna
Or
come
Delta
back. Yeah, you're
25, I
stoned, but
should
it's only
say.
3% THC.
But a lot of LSD 25 for some reason. Oh, excellent. Yeah, it
Oh,
was
and what
interesting.
I just grabbed before was a different jar. Sorry. So now, like the one I'm for sure. Yeah, still citrusy.
Remember to label your jars.
Yeah, please do. Especially when you
And label the jar, not the lid.
have a lot of
With-
jars.
With a smudge proof.
Unknown number of jars, but enough
Label the
to
jar,
get
not the
confused
lid.
about.
Because once you start mixing lids, you're like, hang on a second.
Classic stoner moment.
Almost like a smell. If that makes sense to anyone. I know GMF just cringed a little bit. What's
Yeah,
a kush?
a little bit.
Yeah, I would say less, yeah, a little bit earthy.
Push is a plant
Some
that
gas.
tends to harm in my garden.
I don't know what that smells and tastes like.
Yeah.
Yes, it was an interesting thing. Like, came up with a discussion on the DR420 thing last night. Like, the idea behind, like, the concept of monitoring CO2 for the home grower, is that really worth it? I mean, compared to, say, something like the infrared, where the actual monitoring device costs roughly the same, let's say. But one for the home grower as well as the commercial grower, I think gives a lot more value, and that is the infrared compared to the CO2. I actually think that's where the next step in the technology of home growing needs to move into, is to move into visual image analysis and spectral analysis and things like that. Because the thing about CO2 monitoring is what are you going to do about it unless you can supplement it? Otherwise, great, I know I don't have enough, or I know I've got enough.
Right.
It's
Unless you can
like-
seal the room too. Like most of us can't just seal it, you know, or it's not designed to be a sealable system.
Yeah, I cannot seal my system. Yeah, a lot would go
You know,
out of
and-
whack very quickly.
That's the infrared camera. That's it. You know,
Pretty
that's
slick.
how big it is. And that you just pop it up, you know, stick it in above the thing, overlooking the whole grow. And,
Cool.
you know, and the bonus behind this is it's telling you how the plants are doing. It's telling you how your lights are doing. For instance, are they giving the spectrum that they're actually interested in? Are they photosynthesizing properly? When something like powdery mildew moves in, you'll see it straight away. If the plant starts to be attacked by something, is getting stressed, you'll see it.
Well,
Yeah,
after we
that to
first
me
started
is
talking-
is kind of where I think there's far more value to the home grower, small guy and the big guy.
Would be the one biggest leap we could make in the amount we're learning day to day. And I think you're right. It's not, because CO2, it'll only tell you what's the atmosphere. And that's the one thing we really can't change is Earth's atmosphere necessarily. It's going to be 400 to 300 ppm, depending on where you're at. Add animals, you'll get more. But what you're doing with that is actually letting us look at our plants like a bug looks at them in the spectrums that we don't as mammals have necessarily. And that is more information that our brains can actually use, but is outside of our realm of current perception. It's kind of like, you know, imagine yourself getting biohacked so that your eyes could see different wavelengths beyond what they are. That's essentially what you're doing. You're giving us the equivalent of a superpower.
Yeah, and the thing with it is that yeah, it's just adding this extra bit of spectrum in that when you start to then run algorithms on to filter to filter it out, because it's this infrared and because you've told it, okay, absorb all of it, and you've got this extra red data to play with. Yeah, you can do all sorts of interesting stuff with it. But I see like Magma Seed's asking about, could you attach it to a drone? Yeah, I mean, I guess you could. You can make it light enough to attach to a drone. Well, it is light enough to attach to a drone. It's just a battery pack that you need to go with it. But the idea behind this one is that it's permanently connected to a Wi-Fi network. So it updates, takes a picture every 10 minutes or however often you need it to take a picture.
Is it 5 volts?
Yep, 5 volts.
So then it could
Well,
plug into a drone. Yeah, you wouldn't even need the battery. You could plug it straight into most drones.
Yeah,
but
5
like
volt
Euro's
micro
telling us,
USB.
the value isn't correlating data, right? So the value in that thing is really having it on a time lapse so you can see that data value change in a specific location over time, right?
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea. Part of what got me on this when I was playing around with it, like to the idea of being able to look at a whole farm is rather than like sticking it. I thought, what could you do for a low cost solution that makes it really puts the data in the hands of everybody? Is you could just put this on the bottom of a little kite, a balloon, something like that. They can just lift it up into the air, like you get, on a farm, you just get a really tall pole and stick it on the top of a really tall pole, looking down with maybe a GPS marker. I mean, your farm well enough. If it's, I'm talking like small holding farms, where you could just walk up and down with this thing, and it's just recording images as you walk up and down, and then you look at them afterwards. You don't even have to go to the cost of having a drone operator to fly the drone around. Because I don't know what it's like in the US, but in Europe, if you want to fly a drone, okay, how much is it's over 150 grams? Okay, now you need a license. Oh, you're doing it commercially. All right, now you have another license, and da 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 da. It's like there's all these crazy restrictions in that sense. And if you could just do something like a helium balloon, and a piece of string so you can pull it back down again, just send it up. And the higher it goes, the bigger an area it gets to cover. It's not for individual leaf analysis. It works best when it's looking at a big area because you can spot the oddities amongst all of that field of plants that all look the same except for that one. Go and have a look at that one. What's it doing? And it picks up on when they're senescing, so you can tell when they've matured, and especially for all of the it's more problematic for the salt crows because if you don't cut it, they'll just keep going. You can force it never to senesce. But for the organic growers or the soil growers, at least, when the plant goes into its natural senescence, when you're watching them, you can see they've all matured. You can see when it's happening, and you can go, okay, that one's done. At what stage they're at. There's so much more than CO2 monitoring CO2 would be. I think that really is the next step up in it. And the AI around it is becoming really computationally quite cheap to run as well. And I think that's what will make it interesting. Yeah, when we can combine it from all these different people's observations.
Okay, maybe this is just my brain kind of working on the bong hits here, but could we use this to preempt? I mean, between the AI learning that you're capable of, creating parameters for, between the IR system that allows you to get the kind of data that we as mammals don't normally get to see, could you create a predictive IPM system?
Yeah.
So that way you can be far more efficient about what you need to spray, when, and why, simply because you're going to actually use an algorithm that mimics what we think is the bug's intelligence or intention.
Yeah, well, it learned. You've gone along, and that would be the idea with everybody who's using the infrared, and they're also recording, let's say, all of your environmental variables that go with it, which is just being captured by a sensor. So you're not having to write this stuff down. The image is time stamped, which then matches the image with your sensors that were nearby. So you've got all of your environmental data. You might also include weather data as well, because that's available. I know know where the people are. You capture the local weather data, historical and forecast data, and you bring all of that along with them recording. Oh, yep, got powdery mildew. They can then mark it on the image and go, that was powdery mildew. That's when we got it. And now if you got everybody contributing that in, the next time it starts to see similar kind of weather patterns, similar kind of environmental data, and similar traits that it started to see in the imagery, it goes, whoa, in 2 weeks' time, you're going to be overrun with powdery mildew. There's a high confidence score that that's going to happen unless you do something now. It can actually predict what the outcome is likely to be based on all these observational points that it's making. And adding in the infrared, adding in that plant health piece gives it another edge that it can work to. And it can go, oh, that's nutrient, it's not powdery mildew, because you've marked it in the past. Oh, this was a nitrogen deficiency. This was this. So the more labels that people produce for it, the better and better it gets at it.
So with this IR system, in the same way as, you know, kind of thinking about other systems, would this require these huge dispersal across multiple gardens before you created a database that could actually be used as predictive?
It would make it quicker. Yes. The bonus is when you add in like all of the more data points you can capture along with it, the better. You know, so if you, it's just like, how often do you get powdery mildew? If you don't get it, you know,
You're never gonna have the data.
it can never learn what powdery mildew is. So that's why you need, it's, you know, all it is trying, it's, you could certainly train it up to this is normal, and the second something isn't normal or it can't explain it, it will go, hey, what's that? So like outlier or anomaly detection. That's something I was thinking of introducing. It's a kind of almost like real-time anomaly detection. Like, is this reading you just got unexplainable? And it's a really neat way, and the technology involved in how it does that. Well, the one I'm looking at anyway is this thing called autoencoders. Okay, we're getting into like real techie stuff. But essentially what you do is you take a high-level representation of something, you break it down. So like, let's say you use 8 layers to represent a number, and you then condense that down to 3 layers to represent that same number, and then go back up to 8 layers again to represent the number. And everything that you put in, it has to produce an exact copy of that on the other side. So it's got to figure out a way of simplifying the representation of what you gave it in a way that it can then decode that simple representation back to the original input. And the difference between the original and the output gives you your error. You train this model to become really good. You train it with lots of data that's considered normal behavior, normal data, and it becomes really good at being able to take anything that's normal that you feed in. It can really well produce that. There's a very small margin of error. And what that then gives you is the second a reading happens that either it's never seen or it doesn't know how to remodel, the margin of error between the input and the output for that particular point is suddenly massive. And you go, there, that's the outlier event. It can't explain why that took place. So it gives you the indication of what to go and look for. It's like beautifully simple, but quite complicated at the same time. It's the same technology and same way that they do compression algorithms with. Interesting.
Yeah, it certainly looks and seems simple at the other end, you know, but like you were just describing, it takes all those sensors working together in unison. They had to be put up at specific points so that they could get certain data points as well. Yeah, it's like watching art being drawn or painted, like by a master. It's just all being set up in perfect sequence, almost imperfect sequences that might look like random and not efficient at the time, but then you look at the end result and you're like, wow, I could have never done that.
Oh, it's crazy. When you play with some of these models, you give it like what seems to be quite simple, and then it tells you how many tunable parameters they are. It goes, you know, you've given it something really simple to play with, and it's 75 million tunable parameters, and you're like, holy fuck, yeah, no, you do it. I don't want to get involved in this mess. Sorry, like, how many now? Shit. And, you know, you've all got to do think like and you got to change them one at a time. Hey, I mean that's how it works. It tries to find these weights of all these different parameters to figure out. Okay, these are the weights that give the output consistently. It's crazy. The inner workings of these things is just mind-boggling.
Yeah, I can see why you went with like random generation, like especially in your last, what was it, simulation?
Mm.
Yeah, just like it kind of needs to be random, otherwise you're just going to be looking at all these parameters.
Dreamer77 wants to know, where can I buy this? That's awesome.
Oh yeah. I mean, it is available now. It is experimental, but it is available. So do get in contact. You can heal grow systems on Instagram. And
Always fun to
get
be
in contact.
experimental.
Yeah. And that's when it's usually when I like to look at that. That's probably when it's going to be at its cheapest as well. To be honest, getting on the ground level, being part of the feedback loop and contribution at the early stages in developing out the product certainly makes it the most cost effective. So I'm doing with the CO2 monitors. I've cracked that puzzle on what to do there at an affordable price. So as I put it out there, the first 100 pre-orders, which being honest now, not going to be the same as the final product, because they are the pre-order products. That they are what will fund going to final development, but they are the functionality is exactly the same. All it will be down to is, okay, maybe there's a slightly different housing for it and stuff like that. And ideally, they won't be hand soldered together at that point. It'll be proper PCB printed. But yeah,
It's got your
those are
blood,
like
sweat, and tears in it.
exactly.
First
I
gen.
mean, they're 200, which I think is a fair price, £200 a pop, and that does CO2 capturing at 30-second intervals. So you can check if that CO2 mushroom bag that you're hanging up is actually doing anything. I'd really like to see how well those operate.
I feel
But
the
you don't
same.
have one. Do you need a mushroom bag?
I don't have one. No, I grow out in the greenhouse with my chilies, but the mystery growers grow. That one is permanently running with an exhaust fan, so I don't see any point in them
yeah.
actually. Maybe in the middle of winter when it clicks off every now and then, just to let the room warm back up again. But otherwise, it just runs permanent extraction. And right now, ambient CO2 is what, 419, 420, somewhere around there. It's almost at the perfect 420, man. Got to burn a few more trees.
Yeah, considering it's just you're offering it at
You said 420.
$200. Cheers, everyone. Yeah,
it's not.
you're
But he
offering
said
it at $200, and then once it's all
200
polished,
pounds, so it's about
£200.
$250. And then the final one it'll
Gotcha.
be $299, 300.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, look, you're getting the first version, but you'd actually be saving out in the end. Good investment, considering. In some Mecca, you know?
Yeah, that's I think it was a reasonable price. Again, it's not so much about the hardware, it's more about the data part, the data side to it. So
yeah, exactly. It's just the housing unit as well that's just going to be changing. Whatever you can use is just going to be the main thing for the time.
If you want a hand soldered, 3D printed prototype.
Oh no, that will be. I will go so far as to say at least the one thing that I've managed to do is that they will be in the same form factor. So it's the injection molded form factor. I'm just figuring out the connection pieces to it. But yeah. But I like your enthusiasm, Chris.
I don't think it's just like whether you 3D printed. I'd rather have it 3D printed and fucking soldered by you than some fucking guy halfway across the world.
Oh, at least I can say that.
Formed.
They were
Yep.
injection
Robot
molded in the
handmade.
UK, so at least I can say that. Yeah, they're made local.
Well, and
Oh,
Pete
they're
tends
not
to always
even
work with
3D
his
printed.
shirt
Oh,
off.
that's even better. Nice.
Yeah.
And Pete always works with his shirt off, so there's a chance you could get one of Pete's chest hairs in your thing and then clone Pete, and you also
Yeah,
get
yeah,
to
it's a
have your own
chest
Pete.
hair. That's what it is. It's a chest hair. It's a curly chest hair. Yeah.
Act
Let's go with
now,
that.
and you'll get the Operation Grow
An
calendars.
starter kit.
You're good.
You've drifted into the after show.
The Pete cloning kit. The way you can just ask Pete questions at home.
Oh dear.
Good shit.
Trying to have a quick look through the through chat here. Yeah, I'd really want to get onto the whole get the machine learning thing running now. Get that going. I really think we've got enough data. It's getting people to sign up to it. Because what I really want to start looking for is people. When I say sign up to it, it's starting to label the data. To say this is when I got this is when I got that. And it does mean logging a few more things like what is your light cycle, so it can understand when it's looking at the environment. Oh, this is why the temperature keeps spiking at this time. Is because you turn the lights on, and it drops because you turn the lights off. Otherwise, it struggles to know what's causing those events to happen.
And for you people that are getting into like the testing game and you want to test seeds for some big breeders, if you don't have a minder, like they're just not even going to talk to you. Like you're not giving them any good data, so you gotta have it. Otherwise, you need a journal, you need the feedback, and you need a minder.
I mean, to be able to turn around
Direct
to
link to everything, a full map.
It does. It makes it easy just to have everything for a breeder. Like you're giving seeds out to people, and if they can give you the temperature at any time and know exactly what's going on, and they keep just a simple fucking log of when things went awry or when they were great and stuff like that. Boom, you got
simple
it.
spreadsheet.
You had that camera, and now you got fucking visual proof. Now
that's
better than a camera in the. I mean, everybody's got a camera in their tent, a Wise Cam or whatever. But
I mean, yeah, now you could. I mean, just I think as the feedback to the breeder is just to go at the very end. If you went, this was my yield in terms of weight, terpenes, chemo profile that I got back. Boom, boom, boom. This is everything, and just here is the temperature log and environmental log that went with it. Boom, there you go. So I grew it, and it's something that just says average. And you've got the daily stuff, but it also gives you just like the average temperature was for the whole grow. The average humidity was this, the max was this, the minimum was that. Just give some stats and go, there you are. And when they then put on the back of the seeds to the next person, they can go, yeah, if you grow at this sort of temperature and humidity for 10 weeks, this is kind of the output you can expect. Or at least it gives them a really good idea as to how well it works. And it takes a lot of stress off the bloody grower because you don't have to record all the information. It's being recorded automatically for you. That's the bonus. It's not like it's an overhead as the grower that you've got to, I've got to remember to record the temperature data. Like, no, it's just being captured automatically.
yeah, it's like, I mean, once you start doing monitoring environment, I mean, I see so many people that are now cultivation managers in big facilities here that just were home growers who took the things, took their environment serious, made it a scientific endeavor, and now they're, I mean, even Miss Newton just got a new job too. She just got another job cross country as head of cultivation. If you could stick around that company for a while, you can make some good money. Usually, sadly, a lot of these places will get your knowledge and then dump you. So make sure you get a multi-year contract if you do get a cultivation director job. Don't let them steal your brain.
And that's common though in a lot of industries that the knowledge is in the hands of the people that actually do the work, but they're not the ones in management. Look at the restaurant industry, look at the brewing industry. That happens a lot. They'll bring in someone, get systems out of them, get things built, and then look for something cheaper.
Mm, mm. Yeah, that comes back to bite people on the arse eventually as well. The constantly, eventually, if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. It does eventually happen because the person that really knows it left. um,
And it comes down to like the state and their laws, because if you've got a monopoly on the sale of cannabis, it doesn't matter. You can get away with murder. Your product doesn't even
mm,
be good because you don't have any competition.
yeah,
So some states it's really sad. Other states I see some craft, but not a lot.
yeah, yeah. And the thing is, it's going to come down to that whole consistency. Again, that comes down to knowing how you grew it so that you can reproduce it over and over again. And in particular, to do with, when it goes, I think it's probably often more valuable for when shit goes wrong. Like, where did it go wrong? Why did it go wrong? How do I avoid that? Uh, and then how do I spot it next time around? And that's always been the challenge: is how do you spot this happening again? Yeah. Oh yeah, I've got the information, it's great, but that's usually the tricky piece. So that's where the machine learning helps out, because it can do that really boring part of the job, which is just sit there and number crunch it. Um, so yeah, that's the bonus behind it. It is that number crunching slave. It really is. And my old man was telling me some story about back. I mean, we're talking like must be like mid 70s, and him telling some intern, "I need you to work something out," which was like, how many days in the year will the temperature be below this, combined with the temperature of the room that these people are working in, to understand whether or not we need to introduce an aircon unit. Like, these days, that's like a 2-3 minute job in some maths AI, well, not maths, just an algorithm or maths library that you can just quickly call up and go, crunch, give me the data. Back then, man, that's calculator, slide rules, and pen and paper. This is before spreadsheets have come out, and you're like, you bastard, you asked him to do what? Like, how long did it take him? He was like, oh yeah, about 3-4 months. Yeah. It turns out it was 3 days in the year. Just to buy them whatever, then install whatever the heating or whatever it was that they needed to do. It's like, holy crap.
Yeah, that's going to be proving itself to be very valuable. Just crunching out all those data sets. And think well, you brought up an office. What about a warehouse scrub? On all the data sets that you need to go through there. So there's a lot of unknowns up in there unless you're uh, unless you have specific sensors and probes and set in the right places so that you can get an overall understanding of the airflow, how much heat is going on with your infrared. You can even look at how much heat your ceiling is bringing in. Like, oh, okay, how expensive would it be to just shade that, put a little shade cloth on top of like the literal roof, and then that would bring down the uh, the temperature dramatically, just because it's not being hit directly onto this this heat mass. It can retain so much of the heat for longer once it hits the building. So little things like that, that price set be not reachable for some people, but you might make an observation that'll save you thousands. So, and that's just at a home scale. Imagine at a warehouse scale, like how much that would save. It adds up.
Yeah.
It adds up monthly.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think, I look at you get people go, oh, AI tell you what to do. And it doesn't tell you what to do. Sorry, I was just thinking and looking at some of the comments in that. The thing about AI, makes it interesting, is it gives you a confidence score. Like, with a 80%, 80 degree of percent of confidence, I think this is going to happen. It's up to you to make the decision whether you act on it or not. You can still override it with your own human intuition. Oddly
There's
enough,
still
you
the human
eventually go,
factor.
holy shit, it got it right more times than I did. And maybe I should listen to it. But the other thing is, it's really like tractor was to farming, the evolution or the revolution that the tractor brought about to horse-drawn plowing was massive. You could suddenly do all of this more. But the catch is, tractors are really expensive, big bits of equipment and tech and things like that. And what you've now got is that same sort of revolution in the technology that it brings and what the outcome it can give you, but it isn't a huge big piece of equipment that you need. It's really sneaky. It's like on your phone. I mean, that's the crazy thing. It's that small. Um, and I think those who embrace it and run with it are the people who are going to really benefit the most. And using it as it should be used. It's just another tool in the toolbox. It gives you that extra bit of insight. If you don't actually know what you're doing, it doesn't matter how much information it gives you. It means nothing. That famous thing with the guy coming in and drawing a chalk line on a piece of equipment and going, "That's where you need to cut it, and that'll be £20,000, please." And they go, £20,000 for a chalk line. He goes, "It's chalk line is like £2.50. Knowing where to draw the chalk line, that's 20 grand." So
Well, and you're
if you
talking
don't
about the
have,
technological.
Hmm?
Go ahead. I was going to say,
No,
you're
no.
talking about the technological advancement in our pockets in our smartphone. Literally, to the number value, your smartphone is on average millions of times more powerful than the Apollo 11 guidance computers. What put men on the moon is nothing compared to the amount of computing power we all carry around in our pockets.
Oh, you've got more digital storage in your phone today than the world had probably for the entire decades of like 1980. Your whole phone holds more. The fact that
Right?
your phone's got 250 gigs of RAM sitting in the fucking thing. Shit, I remember 400 meg hard drive and going, I'll never fill that.
I
Hey,
remember
let's
when we
use
worked in
that to
kilobyte floppy
play some
disks.
app games.
Yeah.
That's what it's coming to now. So yeah, it does it's all in who holds it. You could literally learn everything that you need to know with your phone. You could
Yeah.
learn chemistry through your phone. You could learn
What did I say? Like
engineering through your phone.
all
It's
of the
what you
knowledge
choose to do with
of
it.
the world is here. Yeah. The world's knowledge. Hey, everybody, check out my breakfast.
Uh,
Right? Well, okay, even look at, okay, and people hate me when I bring this stuff up, but like, look at current
Well, as
events,
Chris is quite happily putting that, the internet's best for.
right?
I'm so glad.
You know,
memes.
Oh, it's
we found
before.
out, we found out what happened in Haiti within what, 24, 48 hours of the president being shot there. You start getting real-time details flowing out about it. That never used to happen before.
Mm,
Even in places that are not, the whole world at this point is largely wired up.
yeah. It is remarkable. It's certainly making massive changes, and it's to be embraced.
Or the
I
fact that
don't
we can
think there's
talk about
any
looking at
point
our
in.
plants like bugs.
Mm, mm. I don't see any reason why not to. I mean, we become like our. To be afraid of the technological advances just makes us like our parents going, "Oh, you shouldn't be, kids these days, blah blah blah,", blah. And we were all like, "What the fuck?"
Mm.
And I take the
Excuse me.
exact opposite. I'm always, trumpeting kids these days, man. Look at them go. Look at the kind of stuff they can do. Look at, how much farther along they are at their age than we were at that age. You know, I especially look at like when you go to help someone younger with something like math, good luck, because chances are they might know more than you. And they don't have to be, a youngster. And their level of mathematic
It's
prowess could be
amazing.
far beyond you.
Yep. I mean, they're learning fucking, I mean, they're already in calculus in middle school now. Like, that was like how I left off high school.
I had to take AP calculus in high school, right? Right. And these middle schoolers are learning calculus.
What really annoys me is when we were having to learn that kind of crap at school, and you went, "What am I ever going to use this for?" They went, mm, "Yeah, kind of good point." You know, like there's very few places. If they turn around and went, like computer games, this is really applicable in the computer games industry. You go, "Oh, hang on, maybe I'll pay a bit more attention to this now."
If they
That's
had told me that's
definitely
how you
something
make
that they've
beer,
got.
I would have paid way more attention in biology and chemistry.
Yeah, and this is okay,
Dude,
class. This is
the
how you grow
fire
good
you can
weed.
grow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you just take biology,
So we're
just
gonna grow hemp.
biology. Yeah, that's
Finally,
something we were talking with my little tent, and she was telling that someone in her family, a younger person in her family. It's like, hey, take this. Trust me. You want to know how you can help and do everything? Take this and pay the fuck attention to soil science, to all these things. It's gonna come up. It's and like you were mentioning, at the rate that they're learning, they'll go through that textbook in half a semester. I remember how I was reading. I would get through a textbook, go through it, whatever, and then move on. And that's how I would have my fun and still actually creep through passing, because I would just do it and kind of be bored. So I see that they're accelerating things. They're letting them learn in middle school calculus. Good. They shouldn't be held back with what we thought was hard. Because I
Absolutely.
fuck wasn't doing that in middle school. They're doing much better than I am. And that's
Well,
very promising.
absolutely. And isn't that what we should want for younger people to do way better than we did? That's one thing I'm happy to see it when young people are willing to call stuff out. Used to be that you didn't, talk back to your elders, blah, 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 blah. Now a young person will call out some BS if they see it. And that's awesome because they have enough knowledge. They have more knowledge than we did at that age. So when they see something BS, they're going to call it. I like that. That makes me hopeful.
oh yeah, I think that's hilarious. At the kids' school, they tried to do the whole drugs are bad talk, and if you smoke marijuana, you will die kind of thing. And the kids were like, excuse me, sorry, there's been no recorded deaths of marijuana overdose ever."
Mm.
And then they would
How
try
many
something else, and
deaths
the
of
kids would be
water?
like, what? No, sorry, man. No, no, no. I think you'll find that that's bullshit. And like, apparently at that point, according to kids, that talk never happened again. And it was never
See?
spoken of again. It's like the
Well,
kids just went,
and that
nah, bullshit,
isn't
mate.
that really, isn't that worth taking away something like, knowledge is the best inoculant versus BS? Knowledge and real information, critical thinking, it is the best kind of inoculant for falling prey to people's BS. You want a good, BS meter, be a critical thinker, and you will be far likely to fall prey to
It's
that
so
kind of
impossible though
weirdness.
with all the op-ed news
Well,
organizations.
is it or is it
It makes
not? Because we can
it
learn
makes it
science. I think that's what we're doing here, though, right? If you learn the science, if you learn the basics of science and why we do basic science and, the relevance of basic science, the relative of applied science, right? That's kind of how you cut through that. Because if you know the science, it's much harder to hoodwink you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've
nice.
noticed that as well. Like actually being able to reference things and go back and say, no, it actually says here that
And
that's
knowing
not
enough
true.
to ask for a source and not just take someone's word for it. That's part of what that, education teaches you is that, okay, I take your opinion, now show me your sourcing.
Yeah.
And let's get into that.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah,
you don't have a source? Well, great. That I'm sure it's real, but
Yeah.
once you
The
show
idea of
me
science,
something, you got to show me something.
right. The idea of science and science literacy is not that we're all going to necessarily go out and become physicists tomorrow. No, it's just so that when we interact in our day-to-day world, we understand and recognize the value of what's in front of us. That's really all it is. It's a better way to navigate your world. You know, like we're talking about IR and looking at plants. It's just a better way to navigate your garden. It's really just trying to apply the principles of science and the discipline involved in it to making our lives better.
The chat's turned into like a when we of the old techie crew, reminiscing of the good old days.
Oh yeah. King's Quest, absolutely. I'm sure everyone remembers playing their first Wolfenstein, the first time we saw 3D graphics.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, some Doom.
Exactly. And when you had to have was it GDOS?
No, CDOS.
Was it CDOS? Because the games used to then boot up in their own OS because they needed all the resources available to them.
You'd have to go to your DOS screen and launch the boot from DOS. Yeah. Or you have to shut down Windows and launch it from DOS. Yep. Oh yeah.
Well, no, I mean this was even before the Windows thing because you had to wasn't so much launch it from DOS, it was its own version of the operating system it would fire up, like this
So it could go
minimalist.
wherever. Yeah.
Just so they could have all 4 megs of RAM. Yeah, MS-DOS was the the base one, but this was what was it called? It was GDOS or QDOS or something like that. Was the specialist? Yeah. I like. Fuck, man, it was great fun back in the day. And PC cases that if you stuck your hand into them, they would just shred them. I don't know. PC case manufacturers had the edges of all the cuts where they'd cut out all the made all the grooves in the case were just like razor blades. Reach in there and take out the graphics card. I dare you.
Yeah, I remember when I first
Bleed all
got
over
I
the
got the
place.
first Grand Theft Auto as a bootleg from Scotland or from the UK. I got it at a computer swap or at a show. It just came in a manila envelope. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Oh, there's some great. It was so much. Yeah, the turbo button on the front of the PC. Actually, yeah, T. Barrington saying now that the CO2 monitor is more powerful. Actually, it is. I mean, they've had a 23, or let's say a 33-pound Raspberry Pi quad-core gig of RAM is more powerful than anything that's available that you could have bought in 1999 almost, probably. Actually, yeah. Fucking hell. That's like the only evidence you really need for we are living in the simulation is like how far that tech has come on and how fast it's happened.
Well, okay, but we say that, but then look at the biological equivalent we were just talking about. Look at how advanced our little kid computers are now compared to what our models are. Our brains are old, 486 DX100 brains. Their brains are, brand new quad chips. And that's the thing. That's why they're doing all these things younger and younger. This curve is not just our technology. This is a biological expression of just human culture. We build on the backs of giants, and that means our knowledge increases exponentially the more of us there are, and the more diverse we become, and the more connected we become. That's really our superpower, is that we have the ability to be individuals, yet to use collective knowledge as a hive mind, yet still have the benefits of individuality and creativity. We're very unique like that, I think. Maybe I'm wrong.
And constantly upgrading ourselves.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
That's part of where what makes it super interesting is, the evolution is not a biological thing. I mean, evolution is just this grind forwards, this constant march to improving and getting better and better, and it's not restricted. We're at that cusp of where it starts to shift from biological, just purely biological evolution into biomechanical evolution, and we're starting to see that happening. We're starting to see prosthetics now that interface with the human body, like to the point where people get tactile feedback and can't tell that it's no longer their real, it feels 100% real to them. I mean, the power of the human mind is it'll compensate very quickly. Just simply that experiment with the glasses that flip everything upside down for you. Within 24 hours, 24 to 48 hours, your brain has flipped it all back around. So you cope quite happily again. And oddly enough, when you take them off, everything's upside down, and you need another time for your brain to get used to it and flip it back again. So that I really strongly feel within the next 20, 25 years, elective biomechanical implants and replacements will be common. I think people will be happily opting to have parts of them replaced with biomechanical alternatives. Yeah, whole eyeballs replaced, not just with a pair of glasses. Whole arms, whole legs. It's coming. And then it gets into that interesting piece of what defines you as being you. Is it just the bit in the fragile skull? Is that bit that makes you you? On that note.
Well, and I think this is where you and I always have that discussion, whereas I think it is our actual compassion that makes us human. Doesn't matter if it's biological, doesn't matter if it's genetic. If you can teach an AI to feel compassion, if you can teach an AI to quote unquote have humanity, guess what? It's human. That's our defining characteristic, is our ability to be empathetic.
Yeah, so it's nothing to do with the physical part of it. I mean, and that's the thing is, so
it's our ability to love.
In 1,000 years time, or 2,000, 5,000 years time, they look back and they laugh at the fact that, hey, people will be going, what? So you're trying to tell me that we used to come from them squishy, fleshy things over there? You're fucking nuts, mate. And by the way, the universe is flat. There's no way we came from those fuckers. Impossible. It's gotta happen, man.
Oh, cheers, everyone.
I'll go with that. It's 420 out there.
Yeah, I think that would definitely be where it gets interesting.
Yeah, once we don't have to deal with most of the restrictions we have, because we're just kind of dealing with these. Yeah, I mean, if we can improve it, our biology a little better. Yeah, there's definitely different routes, but what I see like most approachable is, little upgrades like this. We have, hey, even these headphones that we're wearing, we're able to communicate and hear each other from vast distances. Don't even need to use our hands. So
yeah. I mean,
it's happening.
Pure implant. Yeah, exactly. Well, the fact that you can do it that used to be on Star Trek, wasn't it? Bleep bleep. Hey, and they didn't even have video; it was just audio. We have video and audio, and of course, any diagnosis that you use this thing for comes back with cancer, if I'm not mistaken. And like that's every Google search medical diagnosis it ends up with you've got cancer. Yeah, that's fascinating where we're going.
Yeah, I'm even wearing material. It's not mechanical, but it's able to wick out sweat instantly. It keeps me cool and regulated, so I can function better in a warm area.
Keep those fucking biceps cool,
Yeah,
kid,
I'm
huh?
on.
Fucking- yeah.
Sun's out.
We all got
Stay in
tickets
the
to
sun's
sun.
Raptors
out.
gun show.
Sun's out.
Or like from RoboCop, sun's out, and unless you're wearing sun factor 20,000, you can only be out for 2-3 seconds.
Yeah, right.
Oh, man. Well, actually, on that note, yeah, where can everybody find everybody and whatnot? So let's start with Chris Gunja Grower. Where can everybody find you,
You
sir?
can find me trying to find one of these robot decks. Noob's telling me about this prehensile option. So, yeah, I'll be looking up that. We'll see you next week. Cheers.
Excellent, excellent. And JBF, where can everybody find you, sir?
Oh, you can usually find me hanging out in the neighborhood with those reprobates, or hanging out here with you on the Operation Grow, or in the kitchen fermenting up something, or in the garden getting something to cook or ferment. But yeah, if I can be helpful to anybody, if you've got cooking questions, brewing questions, gardening questions, growing questions, whatever, hit me up. Genetic Memory Farms on IG. I like to be helpful. Thank you all for coming by, and thank you, Pete, for providing this platform.
Nice, nice, nice. And Raptor, where can everybody find you, sir?
I'm Rapper Grow. Thanks again, Pete. Good show. Really fun conversations. Yeah, you can find me at Rapper Grow. Spelled right here, right by this bush, this grass field, right here. All one word, all lowercase, on Instagram, on YouTube. I just chat. Like, sorry if there's just a lack of material. I haven't focused on that. I've focused more on like working with friends and associates. You know, I'm able to talk a lot more and do more things, and also I don't have to do it on my own as well. So I kind of like that format. Yeah, you can find me on places like here, Operation Grow, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4 p.m. Eastern, and 9 UK on Saturdays. Hope to see you next week.
Correct.
And you can
Yep.
also find me on, you can also find me on the Neighborhood Grow Show, where we have a lot of fun. We're actually doing a interview. We have a interview with Khalifa Genetics. Great interview. They focus on preserving land race genetics. So that's their main focus. It's a great interview. We get into a lot of interesting aspects, and even a little bit into autoflowers. So yeah, hope to see you there on Monday, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 Eastern, and 12 UK. So yeah, and just keep in mind, it's pre-recorded, so we're going to be in chat. Still going to try to answer some questions, but it's not going to be a live, so you can't ask them live. But yeah, we're hoping to see them in the chat as well. If not, no worries. You can always contact them at Khalifa Genetics on Instagram. Yeah, hope to see you there.
Cool, cool. Excellent. And we shall, well, you can catch up with me at Peel Grow Systems on Instagram, as well as Operation Grow 2019 on Instagram, or at our website, peelgrow.systems. If anybody is interested in the CO2 or the infrared side of things, please get in contact. You can do so either, as I said, at Operation Grow 2019 or at Peel Grow Systems, or via our website. And you're more than welcome to jump into the after show. We'll be running that for a little while. And yeah, have a great week, everybody. And we shall catch you next week. And I am planning on trying to get somebody on to come and talk about, I know maybe a little bit after the event now, but how to deal with high temperature, high humidity growing. People that are actually doing it commercially, so know how to deal with this problem, and can give some hints and tips, hopefully, to the rest of us on how we can deal with this at the home grow sort of scale. So yeah, on that note, I hope everybody does well. Stay safe, and catch you in a week or so's time. Cheers, everyone.